public testnet launching, right? So like, the community's been excited about this chain for a while. Like, I can't wait for them to actually try it out, and hopefully it's this awesome experience.
What's up, everyone? We are back with a new episode of Midcurve, and today we have a guest on that needs no introduction. One of the legends of crypto Twitter, the Intern, Kevin. It's nice to have you, man.
Great to be here. Appreciate you having me.
Cool. So I think, and you don't really need any introduction here, so we don't need a background on you. Everyone knows the Intern. You're obviously, like I said, legendary in the space, but you made the jump from CMS to Monad a while back. So I wanted to ask you some questions about that. One, why did you make that jump? Why did you leave Dan and and CMS? And two, can you maybe give us a little bit of background on Monad and just what it is?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I've been pretty public in the past about about this side of the story. So I had no intention of ever leaving CMS. I joined in 2020, and I honestly could not believe my luck at that point. Like, I really wanted to work in crypto. I was hoping at some point to do venture in my life, and I just kind of stumbled into this dream job with amazing people to work with. The company culture was awesome. Everything about it, I was like, I think I actually just got the perfect job. Like, I have no intention of leaving. Like, very generous compensation, everything was good. So I wasn't looking for anything else. It really, so I initially talked to the Monad team right when they left Jump. So got the initial pitch. And it was just I had no idea if it was possible to build what they were saying they could build, which usually in crypto means that it's just not, right? Or there's some hitch or something that isn't being talked about. But I was like, if this could work, right, a very performant EVM chain, that's the biggest thing that I've ever seen come across my desk, at least from the venture standpoint. So it just sat in my head as this extremely ambitious idea that if it could work, it's the most important thing that I know of in crypto that pushes the space forward. So again, but wanted to stay at CMS. I love doing venture. I got to shitpost all the time. I got to meet all these cool founders building really cool stuff in the space. But once Mana became, I had a follow-up conversation with Keone towards the end of 2022 and got some updates on the tech side. And it became apparent that I had 10% weighted in my head when I initially talked that oh, maybe this thing could work. I talked to him about the development on the tech side, and it became 50%. And I'm like, all right, 50% chance that this thing is that's if it truly does turn into what I think it's going to, and I don't take a career bet or put a lot of risk on that, and then it actually works, I'm going to be coping harder than anyone else on the timeline watching this thing blow up. And so I had high conviction that it was a really good idea. The team was awesome. And at that point, I talked to Dan, honestly, before I made any decision with Monad, and was like, Dan, I would never, honestly, I've told you this a million times. I do not want to leave CMS. I love working with you guys. What would you do in this position? And he's like, look, if you have that conviction, this is awesome. You're young, you're working in the space. Worst case scenario, it doesn't work out, you just come back here. And I was like, all right, that's the best thing that you could hear from the founder of the company that you're at. So yeah, everything just kind of lined up. So I joined. I've been full time for about a year. Work on kind of all things growth on the Monad side. So working with the top projects, building the Monad ecosystem, working on anything related to community and marketing efforts, and anything on the venture side. So raising our own angel round and Series A, and then now connecting a lot of top teams with VC firms that are interested in the ecosystem. And then, yeah, a brief, it depends on the audience how I describe Monad.
Yeah. So, okay. So the podcast is called Midcurve. So Like,
Okay.
let's keep it super high level for us mid curves. But I'm
Yep.
interested, like, what made you go from, okay, this might work 10%, there's a 10% probability that this might play out, to 50%?
Yeah. So the talking about that part while also staying mid curve is
Yeah.
a little bit tougher.
Yeah.
There's basically like one key bottleneck that is the hardest engineering problem by far, but that's really the unlock that gets performance. And it's the custom state database, and that was kind of the biggest question mark when we had initially chatted. Um, you can here's the mid curve analogy, right? So like databases in general, like RocksDB or PebbleDB, like they're commodity databases that blockchains use to store state and information that's on chain. Um, Commodity database means that they're built to be performant on average, but they're not blockchain specific. So think about it as like a Toyota Corolla, right? On average,
Mhm.
it's really good in like pretty much any environment, like city, highway, suburbs, like wherever you're going to take it, it's pretty good. Um, and so all blockchains currently like use a commodity database. And so Monad, the key unlock is like there's very specific things that blockchains do. So like you don't need it to be performant in all of these different scenarios. It's more like NASCAR where you're just going fast and turning left. Um, so the big unlock on the Monad side was like we're building a database that is optimized specifically for blockchains. And so the problem is it's really really hard to do that, right? You need like extremely smart low latency programmers that are like literally at the ones and zeros levels of programming. um but if you can pull it off, right, it's like, all right, if we're going into a race, a NASCAR race, and everyone's in Corollas and you're in like the only NASCAR car, you're going to crush. So that moment was basically, I talked to Keone and he was like, yeah, the database side was definitely the hardest part, but like we have the architecture figured out now, which is like now it's a solved problem. You still need to do the software engineering to implement it, but there's line of sight to like, hey, we know we can do this now. So at that point, it's like if they could solve it, then you're just taking a bet that like they can actually build it and program it, which James Hunsaker, the CTO, ridiculously smart, like systems architect, computer engineer. So it's like betting on him to do. I'm like, I feel comfortable with that, right? So that's where it became kind of 50. Um, but yeah,
Okay.
not really the we can use the car for the mid curve
Yeah. No,
branding.
I actually think, I mean, that was pretty good. And obviously, like, we have a lot of people who watch this show who understand all this. But yeah, just try to keep it high level as possible. And you
Yeah,
did,
and then
I
I
think you
know
did a great job.
appreciate that. Um, yeah, and then just a brief for what Monad is.
Yeah.
Super short, right? We're trying to build the most performant EVM layer one um, to date, and then possible really is like the North Star.
Mhm.
So a lot of the really really good features that everyone likes about Solana, right? Very fast, low fees. You can build things that are impossible to build elsewhere. Um, we're trying to provide that type of user experience, but open it up to the entire EVM space, right? There's like 95% of developers are building for the EVM, like vast majority of TVL, vast majority of users, honestly, which now Solana is starting to rank up, which is great. Um, but yeah, there's just a ton of people that don't get to interact with high performance chains because the EVM has a big network effect. So we're trying to open up all the really good stuff that Solana provides to the EVM space. And the thesis is that when you do that, there's going to be a lot of really great things that happen, right? New
Mhm.
developers will have a new design space. They can build really cool things. And then we get to push crypto forward, right? Get more
Yeah.
adoption and cooler apps.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, okay. So you mentioned like Solana is kind of like creeping up there, but it's not there, as far as like, um, yeah, like just TVL and builders and all that type of thing. Why do you think that is? I'm curious.
So there are a lot of really good things about the EVM. Most of them are not based on performance, um, but like just from being first, right? You get
Yeah.
We can
first
use a
mover
concrete
advantage.
example, right? Base is an L2.
Mhm.
It's no secret that a lot of Coinbase users that want to interact on chain for the first time are going to go and use Base, right? They don't really know anything about the ecosystem or like crypto. When you lift the hood up, they're just like, oh, I'm going to do something on chain, so I'll go through that. So there's really big distribution. MetaMask is the most popular wallet. um, Ethereum has like the biggest number, right? It's like the highest market cap. Everyone thinks of like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then the rest. So and there's also been a decade of people building for the EVM, like figuring out indexing and like all the different things that go into building a chain. There's really good developer tooling. Like there's a lot of transparency. So there's this big kind of pool of rich resources that the EVM gets to benefit from. Um, so first mover is a lot of that, right? And then just like that propagating out and people building on top, and having things that are composable, and there's Vitalik Buterin, this awesome founder that everyone knows. So um, Solana is much more recent, right? Kind of like has been somewhat relevant for 4 years, like certainly relevant for at least three. Um, and so it just takes time to get there.
Mhm.
There's a lot of like anyone who goes over and uses Solana, right? There's like obviously things that are much more desirable than using like Ethereum L1. Um, so yeah, I think there's good parts on both sides. I think a
Mhm.
lot of it is just adoption to the point that it's at. Um, the EVM is just really far ahead.
Mhm.
But I actually put a tweet out about this though. It was based on so Justin Drake and Anatoly had a really good podcast. Super well informed, and I think one thing that they didn't even touch on a lot, but I think is very interesting between EVM and SVM. Um, we have this idea that we're going to onboard 100 million people to like become on-chain users, or a billion. Um, if that's the idea, say like a billion users is the finish line, and like a very you know generous estimate would be there's like 5 million monthly active users on chain. um, that's not even 1%, right? So a lot of people will be like, okay, well, they are 10 times farther along than the SVM. My view is that we're at 1% total market penetration. Like it would take one viral app that 10 million or 100 million people onboard to like completely throw off the network effects, right? So like Solana, in my opinion, has like the best chance at doing this right now because it is the most scalable infrastructure. It can just support the highest number of transactions for the lowest cost. Um, and there's a lot of really smart people that are building apps that like either can't be built on the EVM or work much more efficiently on the SVM. And those, in my opinion, have the highest potential to onboard, you know, maybe 10 million or 100 million users. And like viral apps grow like that, right? Like it could happen literally in like 3 to 6 months, where like an app starts to take off and then it hits viral levels to the point where it's like, it's not crypto Twitter is excited about this. It's like, you know,
The
I don't
world.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, the world is
Yeah.
excited about this. And
Yeah.
at that point, like if like it's not that crazy to think that the amount of people using Solana could 100x over the course of like 6 months. And it literally just takes one app to do it. So
Mhm.
the point of what I was trying to draw was like scalability is going to be what allows, like if you don't have scalability, even if the app's really good, you just can't onboard that many users. Um, like you'll hit a cap to where all right, transactions cost too much or there's not enough throughput on the chain. Um, so Solana is the most scalable, which means if a viral app starts to take off, right, Solana is probably the best place for it to live. And so scalability is a prereq for viral applications taking off in crypto. And I think Solana has the lead there. So like there's a higher chance that they take it. Now, the undertone of the tweet, right, was like, that's the point of Monad. We're
Yeah.
trying to build that so that that scalable app can also exist on the EVM, and increase those network effects.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. Okay. So let's get into the monad community. and pipeline and all of that. Because you're kind I'm assuming you're kind of like the brain behind this. I mean, you're leading growth and all that. When we first started in Midcurve, pipeline was kind of the blueprint for what we wanted to do. It's funny because like Monad hasn't even launched yet, but you guys have one of the best communities, one of the most hardcore communities out there. I see you guys all over the timeline all the time. So basically, I just want to, I guess I just want to ask like, what's your strategy and how did you bootstrap this thing from 0 to 1?
Yeah. Um, it's a really good question. I would say I have spent more time thinking about this than anyone else that I know of, like probably any like an unhealthy amount, right? It's been like the only thing I've thought about for like 12 to 18
Mhm.
months now. Um, there are a few key foundational differences that I think make the Monad community different. Like it was a decision that was made that has now led to kind of where the Monad community is. Um, and I think at the core of all of it is just like putting the experience of the community members first always. Um, and it sounds simple, right? But it's like something that just doesn't really. It's not like a very widely accepted thing in crypto. Um, a lot of the time, projects will look at their community as like numbers on a sheet, right? They're like, oh, we want to get as many people in the Discord as possible or as many likes on this tweet as possible. Like they're looking at community as this tool instead of like a group of individuals. And when you do that, you make short term decisions that actually hurt you long term. Um, so an example would be if you did a questing platform where you're like, okay, we're going to post in the Discord. Everyone who goes and follows this account, likes this tweet, and comments GM, you can confirm that you did that, click claim, and you get your little reward. Um, you are one heavily incentivizing bots to participate, right? It doesn't take like an actual brain to do that. Um, and two, anyone who would be organically interacting with your content or following your Twitter, right? Like they actually feel diluted, right? Because all of a sudden it's not 200 real people kind of making jokes. There's like 10,000 people who did this, and like most of them are bots, and it just like it's not neutral to incentivize bots. It hurts the real people because they feel diluted in their efforts. So one thing that we focus a lot on is like being very anti-bot, like trying to have as many one-on-one conversations with the community as possible, and like make sure that anything that we're doing exists for the benefit of the community. Um, I would say kind of one thing that comes out of that, which we didn't fully anticipate, but now is like maybe one of the main staples of the community, is that there's this, if you view it as a system instead of like community is separate from marketing, is separate from, product blogs, whatever you want to do, like if you view them all as one system, um, you can get this, um, what's it called, like a positive flywheel effect basically, of like, okay, the community is all riffing on this joke that they like. It's some inside joke. Maybe they created a character saying something that's relevant to Monad. Um, if our Twitter is an extension of the community instead of like some top down thing that we're just trying to tweet memes off of, then we're going to go and post whatever the community really likes. And they're going to engage with that. Whoever created the first meme, like they're going to see it get posted off main. Like that's awesome, right? Like I've never created something that then becomes the brand of this, protocol or thing that's bigger than myself. So they love that, right? And then that actually sparks more energy and organic excitement and enthusiasm within the community, because now it's like you're not watching a movie unfold and you're just in the audience, right? You're more playing a video game. Like you can change the direction of the culture and community of this thing just by making jokes. So like that increases their energy, and then you actually get much better outputs because people, it's very logical to think, okay, if I create the best thing now, they're going to want to post that. And so the marketing actually makes a community much stronger, which then makes like the Twitter and marketing much stronger. And like that over many, many months of curation just becomes something that's like super powerful,
Mhm.
right? One example would be we had a community meetup in Vietnam last week. We had no plans to be in Vietnam. The community just on their own were like, hey, we're throwing this big event. And I think like 1,500 people signed up, and I think like 1,000 went. Like completely, we didn't do anything. They just set this up. And when we heard that, like we actually flew the team out to go there, which then like made it this immaculate thing. So like if you weren't die hard focused on community, it's probably not a decision that you would make. Um, but I think just like making those decisions, many times over, week after week, month after month, like hammering home this idea that community is the most important thing, and then following through with it on like all of your actions and all of your decisions has been, um, yeah, like we put more time and effort into community than like anyone that I know of.
Yeah.
We truly
Yeah.
do see it as the heartbeat.
It's what you said right there is kind of profound, but it's like I think it was the founder of Airbnb said a similar thing in that they had to make unprofitable decisions early on. And but those decisions, pay dividends later on. It's, build slow, build a solid foundation, and then like let you're basically building this solid foundation for this cult or this community. And then from there it becomes like its own thing. Like it takes on a life of its own, right? And it doesn't even need you anymore. Kind of. It just needs you to kind of steer the ship. But I mean, that's amazing. I've always telling the guys like people don't identify with products, they identify with people. So I think it's been like watching what you guys have done has been like really inspiring. Um, that you've created like such a community around like your main characters, Keone and others, who are always out there. Like we know them, we identify with them, we want to see what they have to say and what they're going to do next. And I honestly think that that's the best type of marketing. Like just pitching your product all the time doesn't work. Like Nike doesn't pitch shoes all the time. They pitch Jordan and what he can do. And if you want to be like Mike, you wear these shoes. But it's not
100%.
like oh, look at this, this Air Jordan. Just look at the stitching on it. They're not talking about the stitching, which is what we do in crypto all the time, right? We talk about like the
Yes.
tech, but tech isn't people, and people are the who are using it. So anyway, I could
Yeah.
rant about that for a long time.
No, to build on one example I call out to our team internally and then talk about, you know, publicly more often is like Red Bull.
Mm,
If you go on their
yep.
Instagram, they don't have a
Zero Red
single
Bull.
picture. There's not a
Mm,
single Red Bull on their entire Instagram. It's just
yeah.
people doing cool things and then the logo's there. So it's
Yeah.
very similar where it's like we're not advertising Bonad, right? We're just like
Mhm.
showing the really cool things that people are doing, and we're lucky that they are choosing Bonad to be at like the center of that. Um,
Yep.
so yeah, I couldn't agree more with you.
Yeah, and you guys are making it fun too. And that's like I think that's half the battle right there is people don't want to hang out somewhere where it's not fun. And you know what I mean? Like most of the community is not going to hang out if you're not making jokes and having fun. And I think a lot of projects take themselves a little too seriously. It's like, no, we're like these geniuses who are doing this thing. We don't want to make jokes. I've definitely been part of projects like that before. And I'm like, no one wants to hang out here. You're not going to find any
Yeah.
users because it's just boring. So yeah, anyway, like even though I'm in the Solana ecosystem, it's funny because like I'm now like partially in the Monad ecosystem, just like watching the jokes and you know taking part and participating, I guess. So I'm excited to see, where you guys take it and where it goes.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, that's the goal, right? It's like we don't you don't want to you don't want to anchor to what currently exists and just try to be like one step better, right? It's not like you don't want to create something that's, oh, these are how 10 other protocols market and we're just going to try to be like slightly better than that, right? You want to create like we don't want to have the most fun crypto Discord community, right?
Yeah,
We want to be the most fun place to hang out on the internet. Like you don't need to anchor to what currently exists, right?
yeah,
um Mr. Beast talks about that a ton with his videos, which like I recently started listening to all of his podcasts. There's a ton to learn from that.
yep,
But his main thing is like I'm not trying to make like a better YouTube video than this other guy. I'm trying to make the best possible videos ever. Like and
yeah,
I just want to make the best possible video that can exist. And when you view it like that, like it's not, oh, they did this event, so like we can do a different variation of that. Um, it's like what is the most fun that you can make someone have just hanging out on the internet? Like what's the best possible experience? I think just like constantly readjusting, um, aiming, and then like pulling off events like that, or shared experiences over time is, um, it creates something special. And like obviously there's no like omniscient, the community doesn't expect the team to be like this crazy thing that like always has the best ideas, right? A lot of it at this point now, the community is much much larger than like any amount of brain power that we could create. So like most of the things that we're doing, we're not actually coming up with the idea on our own, right? Like the community is doing it, and then we just curate the best ideas or the best content, and then like that becomes the direction. So it's hard to say because it's like most people can't just go and copy that. But if you get to that point, it makes your job a million times easier. Right? Like I don't have to
Yep.
create any art or any memes for our main thing. I'll just go in the Discord and pick like six of the best things that were thrown in that day, and then our marketing can look awesome because the community is creating such high quality stuff.
Yep. Yeah, that's true. It's funny because like I kind of pitched this idea to a few people like 3 years ago. That like community should be at the forefront. You should have like community led content. You should lean into all of that. And now it's come like now those projects that I talked to are like now finally leaning into that. I just had this conversation yesterday with a guy. But anyway, it's really cool to see like all of this kind of happening and coming to fruition. Like, I mean, obviously you've been on the forefront of it for a long time. And talking about that, like some of your videos that you've made, like even in I guess not early days, but like 2 years ago or whatever, I've never laughed so hard on on crypto Twitter. You know what I mean? So I was gonna ask you, like what made you make those videos at the beginning, like the movie ones? You know what I'm talking about, like the
Yeah,
highlight
yeah,
videos,
yeah.
like the crypto. What is it like the yearly wrap up video?
Mhm.
Like what? How'd you come up with that idea? And yeah, I guess why'd you make those?
Yeah. So it's kind of a funny story. So like when I joined CMS in 2020, like I was a legitimate intern. I was
Yeah.
I think 22 years old. Um, and there's like 15 people at the fund, right? And they're all like age like 30 to 35, like hedge fund traders, VC, like super smart, 10 years experience. And like I'm coming straight out, I'm still in college. And they were talking in the chat, and we're basically like, we should hire a full-time meme guy because memes are so important to crypto. Like it just makes a lot of sense. Like we can just fire off memes. Like one, it's fun. Two, like there's probably actually some value there. Like we should actually go out and hire someone for that. And I looked at it as like, all right, well, I'm the only Zoomer here. Like I'm an intern. What do I have to lose? I'm trying to find some ways to have value. So like I had never made a meme in my life before. But just kind of like went down the rabbit hole, learned a bit how to do it, and then like sent some in the chat one day, and they were like, holy shit, like this is awesome, this is what we're looking for, like just gave a ton of positive reinforcement. um and at that point I was like, great, like if this is what the guys like I'm just trying to like be a part of the firm and help any way I can. um like I ended up making the CMS intern Twitter shortly after that, which is like very much a reflection of the culture at CMS. Like there are almost no venture firms or hedge funds where like a literal intern who's much younger than everyone would feel comfortable being like, hey, can I represent the company publicly in this way?
Mm,
But because like Dan is a hilarious guy, down to earth, like tweets his own mind, um, I felt comfortable enough to like ask him. He's like, yeah, run with it, that sounds great. So got to like post some of the memes I was making on Twitter, and then Dan would like blow them up from his account. And I think it was just like in general, crypto Twitter liked that, right? They're like, we get a lot of trading content, people are constantly trying to make memes. Like this is obviously some young kid like trying to put effort in to like buy into crypto Twitter lore. And again, just got like good positive responses. So yeah, I think I made one video each week for the next like 6 months. I posted maybe half of them. But it would be like my Friday weekly wrap up. Like I would just send it in the CMS chat, and depending on if they liked it or not, I would post it. So yeah, through like I studied physics. I was not a meme or video guy at all. Just kind of like learned it because the CMS culture was like great and they liked it, and then it seemed to hit a little bit on CT. So yeah, I wish I made more still.
Yeah.
I have nearly no time to put into the video stuff now, but I don't know, maybe if there's a break in the Monad engine or something where some more time comes up, I would love to
You
get back into it.
you need an intern. You
I
you should
do.
get an intern.
I have one, my little brother actually.
Oh, okay,
So my
okay,
IRL little brother is like truly an intern at Monad. He runs the main account now. Like I don't even touch it.
okay.
Yeah.
That's funny. So it runs in the family. That's awesome. Um, yeah, man. Okay, so sorry to derail us a little bit there, but I think like last question. I mean, we're coming up on time here, so just to wrap it up, like, what's next for Monad? What's coming up? What's next for you? And what's next for the community?
Yeah. So we just did our Phantom announcement a
Mm,
few hours ago. So we'll have Phantom live on Tested on day one. We have a lot of kind of big partnerships teed up that like we haven't announced. Um, so yeah, just like talking to a lot of the top players, trying to build the best possible ecosystem. Public testnet launching, right? So like, you know, the community's been excited about this chain for a while. Like I can't wait for them to actually try it out, and hopefully it's this awesome experience. Yeah, we have public testnet.
have you tried it
Um,
out?
I have seen it. I
Okay.
have not tried it. Um, yeah, so yeah, public testnet. Everyone being able to come on and check it out. I actually think that this testnet will be kind of unlike anything that people have seen before with testnets, which should be pretty exciting. And then mainnet launch, right? That's kind of like you know when everything comes together, and then I don't know. In my head, I have it pictured as like, all right, once mainnet launches, then we're good. But I feel like that's actually kind of when it all starts. Um, so yeah, product roadmap and yeah, just watching what the community turns into. I think we're getting to the point where it's like, communities have gotten big and strong in the past, but if we keep going for a few more months, we'll probably be in uncharted territory for what that starts to look like. So I'm really excited just to be like a part of that journey with the community.
That's awesome. Cool, man. Anything else you want to touch on before we wrap it up?
Um, no, I mean I'm pumped for what you guys are doing. Right, Jito is like the coolest thing that I know of that's happening in crypto. You guys have been steady crushing. Very excited to see what cooks up in the Solana eco over the next 3 to 6 months. Um, and yeah, we look to make performance at the forefront of all of it. So